As I was just sitting there immobilized by my first ever Adderall-induced panic attack on my living room couch, just like unable to move, shaking, my doormate actually walked in. I kid you not, his first reaction was, "Ooh, that's what you get for doing drugs." We're no longer friends. Hi everyone, it's Jinner here. Yes, I know, 2 videos in less than a week. I must be procrastinating on something, and yes, you're right, it's my music thesis. Anyways, I have gotten this request many times, and it is to talk about my experience with ADHD and medication. So for context, I was diagnosed with ADHD in December of 2019 and have gone on medication for a week in 2020. Had a terrible experience. That was also when I got kicked out of school because of COVID and never went back again. I may go back again in the future, I might not. I just would love to share my story so that people don't feel alone. I feel like there's this huge stigma against medication and just anything that people who are not neurotypical need to actually assimilate into society. I have a lot of thoughts on this particular issue,
but in this episode, this is a show. Do we call this episodes? In the series, show, video?
In this video, I'm going to talk more about my personal experiences, both physical, emotional, and social, because I feel like they're very interconnected. During the week that I tried medication, just so that you get another perspective if you're considering it. So I am currently not on medication, which is probably something I should get back on if I ever want to finish my thesis. But I just wanted to share more perspectives, especially if you're considering going on, so that you are not alone. And again, my perspective is my own. I am not here to advocate for you to either take or not take medication. I just want you to feel good about the way that you are and the choices that you're making, no matter what you choose to do and no matter what your story is. First of all, I would love to hear about it. And secondly, I think that is totally valid. In the end, we are the people who get to make decisions for ourselves. And I think you should feel good in whatever you're currently doing or want to decide to do as well. So without further ado, I guess I can just talk through my week that I was on medication. As you can probably tell from the intro, it was not the best week for me, both in terms of mental health as well as just the reactions I got from people around me. This also did happen like a year and a half ago, but I'm trying to remember everything I can. My school has this health services place where I can go and get my medications, so I went there bright and early in the morning and got my little jar of, I think it was 10 milligram long-lasting Adderall. And then I proceeded to take this little jar with me to breakfast. I was gonna ingest one of the little pills with my meal and not think about it for the rest of the day. So I went into the Ratty, which is our dining hall, and grabbed my food and and had my little jar. I sat down and I actually ran into an old friend who also got diagnosed or something recently. So we bonded over medication and it was great and it was super supported. And that's why I believe that all neurodivergent people should come together and overthrow whatever it is that neurotypicals call themselves. And anyway, so we were sitting there, great conversation. My little jar was still on the table until another mutual friend came and sat down, saw the little jar and was like, "Ooh, what's that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's my little jar of Adderall. I'm gonna take one today." His immediate response next was to just ask me for Adderall. And I think this is actually a pretty prevalent issue in schools where people no longer see Adderall as a drug that people who are neurodivergent, like those with ADHD, actually need to cope with living in a non-neurodivergent society, but more as a way for people who are already normal, or in any sense of the word, to be able to perform better. And I think this is in particular an issue, I don't want to say in Ivy League schools, but these articles say that they're kind of in Ivy League schools. I think this kind of brings on the additional kind of stigma around the usage of these drugs in particular high achieving settings, where it's almost like, oh, if you need Adderall, it's because you're normal and you just want to get an edge up and not actually because you need this in order to function. And I think that's also how I kind of treated most of my accommodations for that semester as well, where I was like, I know I have this piece of paper that says I need accommodations. I'm still going to walk into my school's computer labs to start my assignment at 2 a.m. to finish at 6 a.m. so that I don't have to show other people that I can't actually function. And I think that's probably a common theme of that entire week that I was on Adderall, just questioning, do I have ADHD? Do I not have ADHD? Do I need Adderall? Do I not need Adderall? Is this actually helping? Where is this not actually helping? And And I think especially for that first day, I was expecting like the moment I ingest this like little Adderall thing, it's gonna be like putting on glasses, right? Like everything will become clearer. I would suddenly know what it's like to function as a normal human. And I honestly just did not. I think it also does take like at least 30 minutes for the drug to set in, but I didn't know that. I was just confused. But I think what I did notice was the difference was at the time I was taking a class that required us to read a book a week, which is absolutely absurd. I've never read the book a week except for this day where I took my Adderall. We had like a little 90-page novella, and I sat in my room and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start this. And then I read until I was finished. Like I finished this book, this 90-page book, in 2 hours. And I know this doesn't sound impressive to like probably anyone else. Like it's one of those books that I'm pretty sure is in like a 6th grade battle of the books. But like after I finished that, I just like had this like magical realization. I remember just like Snapchatting all my friends going like, dude, I just did that. Like that was awesome. Like how did that even happen? And then all my friends were like, you normally can't read a book in 2 hours? And that was like my first moment of realizing, so the way that I expect this world to be like isn't exactly the way that my friends or the people around me are experiencing this world. And it's not as clear-cut as, okay, I need glasses right now, I can barely see, let me put these back on and now I can kind of see. And it's not exactly like that, and it's more unplaceable, which I think is what makes having just being neurodivergent so frustrating, is the fact that like I know something is off, but I can't explicitly describe it, and I can't just hand someone my glasses and be like, look at how bad my vision is. And honestly, that was really frustrating. But I think like at least for the first three days I was on Adderall, like my heart was racing a little bit. I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's what I would sacrifice that for being able to sit down and actually do my assignments when I want to do my assignments. And like I was starting to get a little bit just like unable to sleep at night. I normally have this issue, so I was like, ah, whatever, it's whatever. I'm just excited by the fact that I can actually function like people around. Like I didn't really realize the negative side effects other than the fact that like people were making jokes about the fact that I was on drugs because I was really open about it when I guess I shouldn't have. This is like the moment I felt like I literally don't want to be friends with like half the men in my life. They either asked me for Adderall or made fun of me for taking Adderall. And like this is literally half the men that I told this about. I know that someone that looks like me isn't someone that you expect to be on drugs, but seriously guys. Yeah, so I was like having a good time in general. I was starting to notice, oh, like I am different from other people. And I think up until this point, like I realized that I was more energetic, that I was more bubbly, that I moved a lot, but I never really considered that to be something that makes me like brainly different. And like I've always just kind of considered having ADHD as a personality trait until this moment. And until this point, I didn't realize I needed anything from anyone or any extra help for that matter until I started taking medication. So that made me feel really bad. On the emotional side, the Adderall also made me unable to sleep, so I just stayed up all night thinking about these thoughts, which made me more anxious, and it just kind of became this self-perpetuating cycle. And fun fact, March 2020 is the week that I took Adderall, was also the week that all college students were getting kicked from their dorms because of COVID-19, and it was also the week that I will be having midterms for all of my classes that I was behind on, as well as running the week of the show for this opera that I really wanted to do for the longest time. So it was really terrible timing. I was already really stressed, but the Adderall and the increased heart rate and the inability to sleep just really made it impossible for me to think about anything else other than the fact that I was hella stressed. It was the first time that I started experiencing just debilitating anxiety, and on top of insomnia, on top of just living and breathing every single moment as though like I didn't know what was gonna happen next. I got sent to our student support teams multiple times that week, and like sometimes I would just start talking to people and I would start crying and I wouldn't really know why, and now I know it's a panic attack. I also had to meet with a bunch of my professors that week because I was having panic attacks and trying on these medications for the first time. And it was just like the worst week for me in terms of mental health. It was the first time that I really realized that I was different from everyone else around me, and the different isn't like felt like a bad thing. It was the first time that I felt like something was wrong with me, and I was like, okay, this is just like me not being able to adjust to my meds. It's maybe like I thought it was because I don't actually have ADHD, like where else, like if someone with ADHD takes this medication that's supposed to be good for them, like why would they feel so bad? And this was also when just like a lot of things were going on. The beginnings of COVID-19 was happening. I think a lot of it is due to the Adderall just controlling my brain in a way that it's not used to. But I think a lot of it is also just the societal stigma we have against people who take medication, and the fact that like I had to get medication in the first place. It was a risk that I had to take. And the fact that it's not paying off, as well as just everything else going on into the world, I was just not having a good time. And I remember just finally being able to go back to my school's health services and going like, hey, I don't think this is working. And my doctor took my pulse and she said that I had a resting heart rate of 120. And this was like 10 a.m. on a Friday morning. I had not done anything yet. I had not even eaten yet. Yet I haven't taken my medication for almost 24 hours, and I had a resting heart rate of 120. So I was totally overprescribed. Apparently, according to Google, it's a normal dosage for a 7-year-old. My doctor put me back on the 5 milligram dosage that I actually never took because I was just so scared it would happen again. And especially because the week that I have coming up next was literally when the conference that I was planning and the offer that I really wanted to happen, and when Brown kicked us all happened at once. And this is the other thing that I want to leave with you guys with. Because I think 3 days off my meds, I was golden. Like there were so many things going on in my life. Everything is falling to pieces. Every show I was in a shit show. But I was like vibing the hell out of it. I was able to stay on top of everything, keep track of everything, and I was doing great. And I think there's actually a lot of research showing that people with ADHD are great in a crisis, because in the wilderness, when lots of things are going on and when there are life or death situations, people with ADHD are the people who have an evolutionary advantage. And very often in our society today, we don't get to show that evolutionary advantage, and instead we have to push ourselves towards this unnatural way of having to act like a neurotypical person, and therefore having to take medications in order to do that. And I just remember during the week, like this was like the most terrible week of my life, right? And then like a week later, it was the most chaotic week of my life, but it was also the week that I felt most at ease with having ADHD, and it was also the week where I realized, okay, I have ADHD. I see that if I try to force my brain to act like a neurotypical person, I would just get stressed by everything, and the stress would be my primary motivator to do all my work. And the fact that I have ADHD and the fact that my brain is in a million directions at all times is that when the time comes for my brain to actually be in a million directions at all times, like I got you. I can do it, and I can do it without meds, because that was just a situation in which I was comfortable in. But yeah, that happened all in March 2020. I feel like it's long time for me to give medication another try, so maybe I'll do it soon. But that was just like a really interesting way of me realizing not everyone in the world experienced the world the same way that I do. And I think just having that really bad experience also did push me away from trying medication again, and also pushed me away from people that I should probably not be calling my friends in the future. Yeah, I don't know, this is my experience. I know it's chaotic, but you know, I have ADHD, my entire life is chaotic. Thank you so much for hearing my story. Would love to hear yours in the comments below, and just really thank you so much for just being so supportive. And I think just going onto this whim of filming a video for people with ADHD and dyslexia, I didn't expect that. You know, like I felt like I called into the void and the void answered back. And what if we're no longer a void? Anyways, that's for your consumption. I feel like at this point you've heard enough about me, so I'll see you guys next time.